go in the right direction here. We've got the budget that we're following up with the members. Last April, we normally would have presented our budget for the current fiscal year that started July 1 and ends June 30 of next year. And because of this pending Supreme Court decision, we consulted with the IEA about whether we should go forward with a budget anticipating no change from the ruling, and then we would cut our budget accordingly if necessary. But we were advised to present a more realistic budget once the decision was known. So we asked the members to give us a continuing resolution to make our normal expenditures until this meeting when we're presenting our budget, and we actually have this budget posted on CODAA's website in a little more detail than I'm going to show you in the next couple of minutes. But the Supreme Court decision is definitely going to compress the number of paid dues members that we've had because of the elimination of what would be termed fair share dues, or what in union parlance is called fee payers, because these are people who haven't officially filled out a form to join and be a member of CODAA, but that the law for several decades had permitted the costs of contracting and administering the contract and that to be passed along as fair share dues. And those dues really amounted to roughly 90% of what a normal full member would pay. So it actually can have a significant impact on us. And what has been mentioned is that we are in the process of recruiting as many of those fair share members to step up and be full members. And that's factored into the budget you'll see in just a moment. And if you've looked at it online, you'll know what's coming. What I've got here on the right-hand side is the prior year's budget. We've done some work to find areas that we could reduce, anticipating a reduction in dues-paying membership. And what we're projecting for that purpose is that the dues that we receive, which is $48.25 per year if you teach over both the fall and spring semesters, that's the local dues component, that will decline somewhat, as you see up there, from the 36,000 down to 31,000. Now the number in green that's shown is the majority of the dues that comes out of our paychecks, and that is going to the IEA. For us, that's an in and an out. It's not something we're entitled to retain, and so it's shown up there as receipts and then as a disbursement in kind. And so that amount isn't really subject to our approval here today. It's just the amount in black, and then that bottom line number, which we're showing a slight deficiency, which we know we can cover from cash reserves that we have on hand. So what we tried to do is go through, and what the dues amount is based on is approximately a 20% reduction in dues paying members from what was budgeted last year to what we are projecting this year, hoping for, is we're hoping to have 500 dues paying members when the recruitment efforts are done. I think Cheryl mentioned we have somewhat over 700 in a pool that we're hoping that the portion that had previously been fair share, many of them will convert to the full active members. Those that elect not to become members would still be in the bargaining unit. And Michelle, our IEA representative, will be explaining how that all works. So I'm not trying to make that a part of our budget discussion. The other categories of expense are mostly being reduced to help us get closer to balance. And as I say, the slight deficiency that we're projecting should be something we can cover from our cash. Now, let's just suppose that we fall short 100 members, that 100 current fair share members elect not to become full members but remain as a it remain just in the bargaining unit without having to pay the dues. For 100 members would amount to $4,825 less that we would have coming in receipts than what's shown up there. But again, our cash reserve should allow for that. But what would happen then is if we're in, after the end of this calendar year, if we're in a position where we haven't hit our goal of 500 members, we're going to have to make cuts in our expenditures as an executive board. So the executive board would take efforts to bring those expenditures more in line with what we then are getting as receipts. And the effort to recruit many of those bargaining unit members into full dues-paying members of CODAA would continue on. And that's one of the reasons that the memberships category of our, well, I'll show you that in a minute. So this kind of covers some of the points I had made earlier about our cash reserves that exist. Should hopefully allow us to, if we have continued efforts that we have to maintain to recruit our bargaining unit members into full dues-paying members, we're anticipating that's going to cost us something. And so those cash reserves will help us offset those additional efforts we expend to get those members. But at some point, those cash reserves are going to diminish to the point where we don't really have a lot if the membership doesn't come through the way we're anticipating. Up there you see the mention of 500 members being the goal, and that we're not asking for any increase in local dues. We're keeping that at the $48.25 that had existed, I think, over the last 2 years now. So this would be, another year where it's the same. The IDA, we don't have control over that, and that's going up $3.25 for the year. So the overall dues goes up slightly from the $253.50 that we had the prior year up to $256.75, and that's spread out over the two terms of fall and spring. So it would be half that amount each term, and then that half is again split between two checks, one in October and November, and one in March and April. So roughly about $63 or so each of those checks that you'd see coming out. So that incorporates both the IEA portion and the local portion. I wanted to mention something about the honorariums that go to the officers and those involved with the union, and we encourage everyone in this room and those that aren't here and can't be here to volunteer to help with the officer duties. Cheryl mentioned we currently have a Vice President Operations vacancy, and that honorarium would not only be the $800 per year that you see there, but because they're asked to be on the Shared Governance Council, there's a, what's the amount per hour? $30 per hour that you're sitting in that meeting. So it would be an hour and a half each time. And so basically that almost matches in addition to that honorarium amount. So it adds up to roughly $1,500 over the course of a year if you've been on shared governance and the, acting as the Vice President of Operations. This kind of honorarium would not really offset the time you totally spend in the role. And that's true all the way down. In most cases, we reduced honorariums, but in the case of membership chair and assistants, where there's going to be a lot, I'm sorry, not the chair, but the membership assistance role is greatly expanded due to this recruiting we have to do to get those former fair share members to be upgraded. As of today, we use the term fair share. There's no such thing as a fair share member. You're a bargaining unit member, and you can be a union member as well. that shows you the honorariums that are available. Most of the people who run on the election ballot that you will get probably in March of next year, for the following year, fiscal year ended in 2020, historically have been unopposed. In other words, there's only been one person running. The ideal is to have 2 or more people running for each position. So we hope these honorariums can encourage more of you to get involved, to realize that, you know, it's not really for the money, but it helps offset some of the time that you may be spending over and above what you spend outside of the classroom to prepare for your classes. And in the case of the president, I can tell you it's a lot of time. But the others, depending on the role, can find that the calling is not insignificant. With that, if there are any questions, I can entertain those as it relates to the budget. The one thing I do want to mention is, again, the complete budget that shows line item detail is available on our website at that link. But you know, if you go College page, Adjuncts Association, in an internet search, you should be able to find it pretty easily.
Is that 50,000 approximately how much money CODAA has in the bank?
Yes.
Jim,
In
this
fact,
question back there.
go ahead.
Yeah, my question is, CODA member, non-CODA member, what's the difference in pay per credit hour if you're at the top?
Okay, so CODA members are not any different in pay than a bargaining unit member. Once you've gotten the 3 years of service at a minimum of 6 contact hours in either or both of the fall and spring, in other words, it has to add up to 6 hours.
Jim, I don't think that was her question. It was what's the difference in pay between CODA, whether it's fair share or not, and non-CODA people at the top of the scale. And I don't have that with me.
Or you want to know the spread in pay?
Yeah, the
I
spread.
think that
The spread,
CODA, I
the
think,
spread in pay in CODA, and also with the non-CODA people outside of the bargaining unit, the non-unionized people.
Okay.
Do you know those
So,
numbers?
We have to look at
If we
it.
don't
He's
have
got
it,
the contract
It's
here.
less.
Don't we have a contract here with the exact numbers?
what?
It wouldn't have non-CODA on it though.
The pay
Well,
scale,
none of it was 1080.
it's all on our
One up to
website.
1080. That I know.
No, the non-CODA pay scale.
Yeah, the whole pay scale is pretty simple.
The reason that we're not sure about this is because it just got decided, that the board just voted on the non-CODA rates. So if we don't have the information by the end of the meeting, we'll get your contact information and make sure you get
since
it.
that's the question, I'll look it up.
Yeah, we'll make sure to send an email out too. We'll put that in for everybody to get, so we all know.
I mean, the one
The
thing
previous
I
pay scales
can
on our
speak
website.
to that probably is part of your question
It's also on the
is
HR
that there
website.
was a salary pool increase by formula of our contract of CPI plus 0.5%. So that's the contract formula. As it turns out, that led to a 2.6% pool that would then be used to calculate what the raise in each of the tiers could be, all right? The way that works out then is because there are various steps, we're not all paid at the same rate. It's based upon how many semesters you've taught here. And so there's a step that kicks in once you reach 19 semester hours, you're at that next step. And there's another step beyond that at about 32 semesters, not so hours, but it's 19 semesters, 32, and then above, I think it's like 45, over 45 semesters. So because of those steps, that eats into that pool to result in, since you're moving up a step, they can't give us 2.6% then for each of the lanes that we have in our contract, because people who move up a step are getting an increase also. So they count those increases when people move up a step as part of that pool of 2.6%. So no one in our local is going to see 2.6% if they move up, if they're staying in the same lane. So if you're, say, in the first lane and you haven't taught enough semesters to get to the second, it's not going to be 2.6% because of the way the administration has mandated that that pool of money available be allocated. So I think many will see about 2%, except for the grandfathered portion that we're already being paid at a higher level than our initial step. So that's where it falls a little short. Then each year there will be fewer and fewer members who are in that grandfathered category, because everybody in that category either will leave eventually college if they retire, or move up to that next tier.
Is there a retirement age?
No, there's people I know that are here well into their 70s. And there's some that want to keep going as long as they can.
You decreased all the expenses except for the contingency and grievance fund? Why?
Yeah, I'll tell you about the grievance fund. We learned from the IDA was something that was mandated at $3 per union member.
Can I explain it?
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
I'm Michelle Couturier, I'm from the IEA, and the reason that's in there is if CODA were to take a grievance to arbitration, which we've not done, but you take a case to arbitration, it would probably cost CODA in the neighborhood of $10,000 to pay for an arbitrator, to pay for the transcripts, blah, blah, blah. If you took a case to arbitration, I would handle it from the union because that's part of one of my job duties. And you're already paying my salary, so you wouldn't have to pay, you're already getting that service, but we'd need to pay for the arbitrator. And for, an arbitrator is typically charged about $1,500 a day for every day that they're in a hearing and every day that they think about it. So Bill can run out pretty quickly. If you have that $3 in your budget, you can petition the IEA and say, we cannot afford that, we want IEA to pick up the tab for that. And if you have that $3 in your budget, then we will fund the arbitration. So you've never spent that money because you've not taken a case to arbitration, and you probably won't spend it again this year. And then that money will go back into your general coffers, and then next year you budget for it again. It's sort of like an insurance policy in case you take a case to arbitration. Does that answer the question?
Well, it explains what the money is, but why the increase if we're expecting less members? You went from 2,000 to 3,750, an increase.
Well, there's also contingency, which we lower. So in other words, we had a $2,000 contingency amount last year. We cut it to $1,500. And then there's this grievance fund that we had to set aside as a separate expense amount, which we previously had never done before.
Okay, so that piece
Now,
of grievances.
just so you understand, that grievance fund, however, is fully funded as a receipt, because it sits in a separate bucket, and we've got the money from that already. So it's up there as a receipt and a disbursement, so the net effect on our budget is zero.
Okay.
And it's also $3 per member, and your membership, the total membership of CODA has increased, keeps increasing.
When you say membership, you're speaking bargaining?
Bargaining unit members.
Yeah, so that number is much bigger. I mean, as was just mentioned earlier today, over 700 bargaining unit members, but not all of them are local members of the local. Quite a few are. So, was there another question? Because I'll continue to look up.
Why do you have to wait 3 years for it to be done?
There's a legal history
There's a
behind
legal
it.
history to it. You guys organized in what year, Vicki?
1999.
1999. Back in 1999, you guys are covered by a law called the Illinois Educational Labor Relations Act. And prior to 1999, you guys as adjunct faculty were considered seasonal employees. And you were not considered employees under the Labor Act, and you did not have the right to unionize. And due to the IEA's EA's efforts, along with other unions like the Illinois Federation of Teachers, we lobbied to change that law so that adjunct faculty would be considered employees under the act, and therefore you could unionize. And back then, the threshold for unionization, first it was like this big number of credit hours for over a long period of time, and because you guys were one of the first adjunct locals to organize, you organized under the old law. And who asked the question? Sorry. So that was the law at the time. Now, IEA and other unions have lobbied since then, and now the threshold is much lower, but it's just a historical fact of how the law has changed. And your recognition clause reflects that, but every time that we've gone to the bargaining table, we've been able to change it up a little bit and make it less restrictive in terms of the credit hours or taking a break. So we're sort of confined by the law, but we've tried to bargain it, and we have bargained it better every single time. Does that answer the question?
Any further questions on the budget? Because I think the next